welcome to today's episode of Start Being Visible. Today I am joined by Colonel Marisol Chalas, who is a proud immigrant from the Dominican Republic, a U.S. Army soldier, aviator, and a trailblazer who became the first Latina Black Hawk helicopter pilot in the Army National Guard. With more than 35 years of distinguished military service and 16 years in corporate leadership, Marisol has led large-scale operations, managed multi-million-dollar budgets, and worked across continents from the Middle East and Asia to the Caribbean and South America. She currently serves as Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations and Planning at the Army Reserve Aviation Command, where she leads strategic initiatives in global operations, budgeting, and supply chain optimization. Beyond her extraordinary professional achievements, Marisol is passionate about mentorship, representation, and helping women and immigrants to see what's possible when they refuse to be limited by circumstance. She's been recognized by Forbes, the White House, and the Smithsonian Institute, and continues to inspire through her speaking, mentoring, and her advocacy for inclusive leadership. With that, welcome to the show, Marisol.
Thank you, Mildred. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is so good to have you here. And that is quite a record of achievements that you've got going on. So I think from the get-go, I have to know, would you describe yourself as a high achiever?
I would say so, definitely. But it's also, you know what? It's not just about me being a high achiever. It's the people that saw my potential and encouraged me to achieve the impossible.
I love that. And we're going to talk about that, of course. But I want to go back to the beginning, in terms of your childhood, because the career you're in is not typical, So how did we end up here? Because you were born in the Dominican Republic and you came to the US as an immigrant. About what age was that?
It was actually my 9th birthday, on the day of my 9th birthday.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your childhood before you got to the US and then your childhood after that. What were they like?
So growing up in Bani, the town that I was born in Dominican Republic, I had my parents, Napoleon Chalas, and my mom, Dulce Matos, and 2 younger sisters, Nati and Trisha. And what I remember from that childhood was, so peaceful. Every Sunday, it was a tradition. We would go eat pizza, walk around the park. My sister and I went to Catholic school together. Everything, even though it was humble beginnings, everything was about family and just enjoying time with each other. So that's what I remember in the Dominican Republic. Now, when my parents decided to move to the US to follow the American dream in the 80s, my sisters and I stayed with my maternal grandmother for 2 years, and we did not see our parents until we reunited with them in 1982. Now, shifting to coming to Boston, Massachusetts, December 21st, super cold weather. It was very different to adapt. In the Dominican Republic, we were out. The weather was great. Here, my parents were a little bit more protective of us, rightly so, because new culture, it got dark outside. We really didn't understand the environment. So at first, we felt like pretty cooped in, but I understand where my parents were coming from.
Okay, that's actually very similar to my own childhood in terms of. So I was born in Nigeria and I came to the UK a year younger than you at 8 years old, and it's like, and again, it's coming from like a warm climate to like England, which is well known for its rain and cold temperatures and getting down quickly and all of that. So it was a bit of a transition. And then, of course, so for you get here, you're 9 years old. First of all, did you know why your parents decided to make the move to the US? Did they explain that to you guys before you got here?
They did explain it, but I don't think at the age I really understood. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm older, I always say this, I am so grateful for the sacrifices that they made, because just think about it, right? Your parents, they don't know the language, the culture. They're leaving you behind with your grandparents in search of the American dream, not knowing when they will be reunited with your kids. That's courage. If that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. But so as I
Mm,
got older, I really understood the sacrifices that they made because they wanted to give me and my sisters a better life.
mm. So when did you start? When did this military seed drop in into your life? When did you start thinking of I want to serve in the military? What was your pathway to get in to that place?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we're immigrants. My parents, they came from humble beginnings, and as long as we didn't get in trouble, that's all they really asked of us. So I did not have a role model that went to college before me. So I really wasn't thinking about going to college after high school. We had a recruiter come into our high school in Lynn, Massachusetts, and talk to me about it. And I was like, oh, this is a great path, right? I can join the military, I'll get a job, so I actually joined the summer before my senior year in high school. But the funny story is that one of my best friends, she was supposed to join with me, but when we showed up at the recruiting center, she actually backed out.
Wow. And you didn't.
I did it. 35 years later, here I am.
Mhm. Why don't you back out? What did you hear that made you think, oh, this might be for me?
I think you did start asking me saying that I'm a high achiever. I think it
Mhm.
was probably the challenge. The challenge
Mm,
that, hey, I can join the military. I'm pretty good being physical. And then just the challenge in itself. And the fact that at that time, what was my other alternative? I had not thought of college or anything like that. So at least I had a goal in mind.
mm,
But that trajectory changed. It changed when my physics teacher in high school, Mr. Lenningham, asked me why shouldn't I consider going to college to become an engineer? So lo and behold, I went to college, Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and became an engineer because my physics teacher in high school saw my potential.
mm. You must have liked physics.
I guess I was good at it. I didn't think I was.
Yeah. Wow. So he encouraged you to go and study engineering. And then because you specialize in aviation, so how did that bit come into? Did you fall in love with planes before you got to the military? Was it as part of your journey?
It was not. Again, my life has been about people, just seeing my potential more than I could see it at the time, and just opening doors for me. So, no, I was enlisted. I was accepted into Mass Maritime, did my basic training as a soldier. And while I was doing exercise at the academy, a Marine officer saw me, and he was a captain, and he asked if I would consider aviation. Again, none of my plans, none of my dreams. So I started talking to him. He would help me study for the test and take me on the helicopter. But I actually turned it down when I graduated from college because had I joined the Marine Corps, I would have to been an active duty soldier. And since I just finished college, the first one for my family to graduate college, I actually wanted to go out to industry and make some money. You know, when you're young, that's what you think about. So I turned down the opportunity to be a pilot until I moved to California with General Electric. So I'll let you ask me some questions, then I'll go into that.
Okay, okay. I do want to ask. So, as an immigrant, because this is something you still identify with today, even though you've been in America, pretty much your whole life. Going into the military as an immigrant, did you have any kind of concerns, any sort of how would I be received, or did those things not cross your minds, or were they not relevant for you?
So actually, it did not cross my mind. I think I was too young to even think, or maybe
Mhm.
immature.
Mhm.
My parents did not take it very well. They were not, and rightly so, right? They don't really understand what happens in the military here. Do you just join and go to war? So at first, they were not very supportive that I did join. Now, obviously, they're beyond proud.
Mhm.
And some of the great aspects that come from joining the military, which sometimes, especially some immigrants, don't understand, but I paid for college through the military. I bought my first home through the military. These are some of the benefits that we receive. I became a very human being and built a stronger character and integrity because of the military.
Okay, so it's shaped a lot of who you are as a person.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So you get in, you go down this path where you said, so initially you turned down the opportunity to be a pilot, and then you later went back to it. Tell us that story. How did that happen?
So I actually was hired by General Electric Nuclear Energy into the nuclear engineering program or leadership program. And again, this was because Captain Wilson, he was a placement officer at Mass Maritime, submitted my resume without telling me, and
Hmm.
I got an interview from GE. So I actually had a job a month before I graduated from the academy. And I graduated June 22nd, moved to California June 23rd, and started working June 24th. Now, because I was already in the military, I had to transfer to the National Guard in California because here all the National Guards are state specific. When I got to the unit, Colonel Diana Cron, who's now retired, she saw me and she said, "One, why aren't you an officer?" Because I had my engineering degree, but I was still enlisted. And it was actually through her that once she gave me that, I started thinking, hey, why can't I follow? It's not a dream, but why? I turned down a really good opportunity to be a pilot. So I actually started looking into it with the California National Guard. And I was often told that I'll never get into aviation because it's so tough.
And that was a challenge that you had, ding, I've got to overcome.
Yes, yes, again. So it
Mhm.
just it just happened that Colonel Cron had GE then moved me to the state of Georgia, and Colonel Cron had work in the state of Georgia. So she said, "Hey, I can at least get you an interview with an aviation regiment, and would you also consider being an officer?" So once I moved to the state of Georgia from California, I received an interview from the Aviation Command in Georgia, and I was also accepted into the Officer Candidate School, which was a 18-month program, 1 week in a month. So I was doing this training while I was also working for GE. And once I completed the training, I went up to flight school.
Wow. How hard was that training?
It was tough. Especially it was 1 week in a month. And when we first started, I want to say there were 70 of us, 70 candidates. By the time we graduated, only 12 of us graduated. So that tells you. And I
Out of
think it's,
70.
yes, yes.
Wow.
And that was because of the discipline, right? Here you are, you're working your job Monday through Friday. Then you got to get ready. You show up, even if it's all about teamwork, right? So even though my uniform was ready, if my battle body uniform wasn't ready, we all pay the price because you have to learn how to work together. You never leave a comrade behind. So there's a thought to the process as to why you start at first. It's like it's team building. It's all about team. So there were times that I actually thought, I'm like, do I really want to do this? But I didn't quit.
Hmm. And when you watch the movies about the military and you see all of that, one that discipline thing you just talked about does come through very, very much so. And obviously that's something that military is known for. Were you a naturally disciplined person, or were you taught this in the course of being in the military?
I think a little bit of both. I've always been, when I put my mind to something, I will not stop until I achieve it. I achieve it. But I would tell you, the military taught me the strength that I have. Uh, there's times when you think you want to quit because you don't think you have the strength, the fortitude, the emotional intelligence. And the military pushes you, but it's to teach you that you can and you will. And I think that's something from the military that every day I'm grateful for. And I think it builds resilience. It really does.
And what about as a woman? How did you survive those training periods? And were you in a minority?
So during officer candidate school, I actually had the highest scores for the physical fitness test. So that
Even
part was
above the
easy.
guys?
Yes, that was the
Wow.
easy part. Yeah, back then when I was younger, I could do push-ups and sit-ups and run 2 miles like I was a
Mm.
robot. Can't do that now. But I will tell you that, yeah, when I went to flight school, I did face some challenges. I had some instructors, and not all of them. I had some people, some great instructors while I was in flight school. I also had some great battle buddies who encouraged me. But there was some instructors. I had one that specifically said to me, "It takes females a lot longer to learn how to fly," and he wasn't very mentoring. But
Mm-hmm.
again, that gave me the fortitude to go back home, study harder, work harder, and prove to him that I am going to graduate, and I'm going to graduate with honors because I've earned this. This wasn't given to me.
Mm. And along the way, did you find role models? You know, was did you see anybody doing what you thought one day I'd like to do that?
So I've had so many amazing mentors, so many amazing, and just seeing them, the leadership. I'll mention a few. Lieutenant General Bingham, she recently retired. Major General Smith, recently retired. Colonel Diana Cron. It just happened that these are all female leaders, but what I admire about them is their leadership, their humbleness, but their willingness to be tough and strong and still be fair. So I
Mm-hmm.
always say I wanted to be like them when I grow up.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So you then went on to not just complete your pilot training, but you kept flying, literally, pun intended, and then
Yes.
to become the first Latina Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Tell us, what is the significance of that? Because obviously it is amazing, but what is the significance of that, and what did it take for you to get there?
So at the time, I did not know that I would be the first Latina pilot, female Latina pilot in the National Guard. Let me tell you that there have been so many trailblazers from an active duty, Army active duty, Air Force, fighter pilots, and such. So I just happened to be the first in the National Guard, but there have been plenty other trailblazers in the after component. And like I said, I did not go into flight school thinking I'm going to be the first because I had no statistics then. It came out after. But I can tell you, I think it comes with a sense of responsibility to be a role model, to be a mentor, and to never forget where I came from. I will also tell you that my first aviation unit was not very supportive of me. It was a good old boy club. And in this case, I don't think it was because I was Latin. It just happened that I'm a female because we had other females there that were amazing, true role models, amazing pilots, and they also had some challenges. So it did not come without challenge. However, I think it makes me a stronger person.
Of course. What is it? Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, whatever the saying is. So,
I actually have a favorite saying. It
what
is
is
from Mother Teresa. It says, "I know God won't give me more than I can handle. I just wish He didn't trust me so much."
it? Yes. Totally can relate to that. But okay, wow. So you break records without intending to. And then but your leadership is also climbing at the same time, because you move up in the ranks. I don't know exactly. Explain to us how the ranking goes, because you're now at colonel level. So
Yeah.
how did you move up the ranks, and what does it involve at each stage of the process?
Yes. So the one saying that our Army leadership always say is, "You are promoted based on your potential." So leadership will always say, "Hey, we think you fit the leadership criteria to be this." So just in the Army, we have second lieutenant, which is what I was once I graduated from officer candidate school. Then you go on to be lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, and colonel. Now, in order to be promoted to the next level, there are some criteria you have to meet. You have to meet key development positions. You have to do your school, your both military school, and it also happens that I have three masters. I only intended to have one. The other two came out of different circumstances. But it's just having taken the right jobs, developing yourself, having the right evaluations, or the evaluations where your leadership sees your potential, and also just hoping that they see it and that you get promoted to the next level.
So what how would you describe yourself as a leader and your leadership style?
I think I am very compassionate. I do ask a lot from my soldiers. but I am also the first one that will get my hands dirty with them. So I would never ask them to do something that I wouldn't do. I can be tough, but they know that I'm fair. And I am transparent. That would be, if you ask me in a nutshell. I care, I'm transparent, and I would not let them go up front without me.
How do you balance that caring though with and still being respected, especially as a female in a predominantly male environment?
I think as long as you are prepared, I know you have the knowledge, you know your job, and you give ownership to not just your subordinates, but also your peers, your counterpart, and you earn the trust that, and you're genuine. So I think a lot of people forget, be genuine and be vulnerable. My team knows that I have some bad days and they know it, but they also know that I'll be the first one to fight for them. So I just build that trust. I'm lucky and I'm grateful, but I just have a team that's pretty amazing.
What's the most important leadership lessons that you've learned in your journey so far?
Learn how to apologize when you are wrong. We are human. And that's something that people think, oh, we're so different. No, at the end of the day, yes, I may be in charge of the team, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and you need to learn how to apologize and be sincere about it.
Mm. How has that shaped you though? As in, again, if you look at how the military is depicted, in TV and stuff. By the way, do you find that those depictions are close to reality, or is it just very Hollywood's airbrushed?
Well, like everything else, right? Like I like the shows about NCIS, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, and I'm sure that you have to put some Hollywood in there so that people can enjoy it. So I think to an aspect, some things they try to keep straight, maintain. When I see the movies about camaraderie, that's a big one. That at least that's not taken away in the movies that I've seen. But of course, you have to play. You have to make it very interesting. But for the most part, I think they get it right.
Okay. And what about sacrifices to get to where you are in your career, and especially in this tough field? You must have had to make some along the way. Can you share some of them?
Yes, of course. So I've had to move a lot, so that can be challenging. But luckily for me, I think my personality, I just adapt. I'm not married and I don't have kids. It may be God's plan, or it may just be because I move around so much. But I will tell you, there are some amazing female officers out there that are married with kids and they're still in the leadership. So again, it may or may not be because of the military. But I think some of the sacrifices, and not just for females too. You have young soldiers that they're recently married, they have young kids, and now either you're deploying or you're moving. So that does take a toll on the family. So I think that's regardless whether a female or male, that part does take a toll on our soldiers in general.
I think I read on your LinkedIn, one of your LinkedIn posts a while ago, that you adopted your niece. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, my sister Trisha, she passed in 2020, and I did adopt my niece Gianni. Obviously, I do not replace Trisha, my sister, because she was an amazing mother and role model. But I have Gianni as my niece and my daughter, and I also have my great nephew, who's also now my grandson.
Oh, that's nice. How has that shifted or changed the way you work? Having these young people in your life now.
So I still need to work on the work-life balance. And my team, I will tell you this, my current team's like, ma'am, did you eat? Ma'am, you need to eat work. Ma'am, you need to get some sleep. So I try to work on it. But I will tell you that, especially with my niece, she's about to get her master's degree in May in sociology and psychology. And my nephew, I mean, he's visited me here more times than probably my other siblings. And it's just so refreshing having him around, because even he's like, Auntie, you have to use your hot tub more often. I mean, this is a 7-year-old. So it reminds you that life is more than just working. It's about spending quality time with those you love, and also with your friends and people that support you.
Yeah, that's great because I can imagine having that work-life balance might not be so easy at the kind with the kind of job that you do and the level you're at. So you have to be more intentional, don't you?
Yes, yes, I do. And like my friends say, more self-care.
Mm, that's the buzzword, isn't it? Self-care.
Yes.
But on the inspirational side, there's a lot that's inspirational about you and your career, and you've been featured, in so many different places by the White House, the Smithsonian Institute. You were named Forbes, one of Forbes most 100 most powerful women. So that's a lot of visibility. That's a lot of visibility. And this podcast obviously is called Start Being Visible. So I have to ask about that side of things. So visibility, first of all, is it something that you were comfortable with from the get-go, or is it something that you've had to learn to like, maybe even love or tolerate? I don't know where you are on the charts with that.
So it's funny you say that because just this morning, as I was getting ready for this podcast, I just thought to myself, wow, everything's coming full circle. I was terrible at speaking in public. I was shake, used the I was really uncomfortable being a public speaker. And then through everything, right? Work, having this visibility, being asked to speak for military events, to be a keynote speaker, I've had to get comfortable. And I think what keeps me trying to stay calm as I do this is every time I give an interview, every time I speak, I am giving somebody hope. And that's how I try to channel that as I get ready to speak. But I can tell you, I was not comfortable public speaking. So I've gotten better at it. And I'm like, you know what? If I make a mistake while I'm talking, that's okay. I'm human.
Yeah, that's it. Have you seen a benefit to your career or your personal life from all the visibility that you've had along the way?
I think the benefit, personally, obviously, I don't gain any monetary, and I'm okay with
Mhm.
that because I'm doing this to give people hope. But the benefit is, I've had people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I saw you this. I want to be a pilot. I want to be an engineer. You inspire me." Being an immigrant, and it just doesn't have to be an immigrant from the Caribbean. Being an immigrant, you now inspire me to go pursue that dream. I had a young girl recently from Mass Maritime who wanted to be an Apache pilot. I had not met her. She happened to be here where I live in the Fort Knox area during her training. I wrote a letter for her, and just recently she's like, "Thank you so much for taking the time." Something so simple, right? Taking the
Mhm.
time to write me a letter of recommendation. She was accepted. So I think that is what I get out of these interviews, these visibility is one. Yes, obviously, I do have goals, but it's giving back and opening doors for others and giving others hope, especially during our challenging times right now.
Of course, of course. And that there's another dimension of visibility that you've taken on recently, which is how you and I connected, working together on your LinkedIn visibility. So what made you get to that stage where you thought, you know what, I need to start showing up a little bit better on LinkedIn?
So there will be a life after military for me. So even though I love the military, I'll be in at least for 2 more years. I'm already considering what do I want to do after the military. So I happen to see what your work, the job that you do, and I'm like, you know what? LinkedIn is a great platform to really, like you said, be more visible. Start making the networks, starting those networks for the jobs that you want to pursue. In addition to asking you to help me with my LinkedIn profile, I just recently finished an onboard accelerator program, which was a 6 months training to serve on board of directors and advisory council. So it's trying to get myself ready for when that time comes that I'm already prepared to transition from the military into the civilian sector.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely always great to plan ahead. What is that? They say that the best time to build a personal brand is when you don't yet need it.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a great currency to start working on from now. So I know you've started thinking about what's next after the military, and you've got so much to offer. You've got so many skills. You've worked across the Middle East, as we've said, Asia, North, South America, Caribbean. So, with all that global exposure, where do you see yourself next in your next chapter?
Yes. So, we always have the short term and the long term. Short
Mhm.
term, I would like to serve on boards of director. Most of the boards, I would like for them, they can be private or public, as I've served on boards in the academia industry, so I'm building experience. And if it's international, Latin American, even better. But my long term, my dream job, we all have a dream job, right? My dream job is to be the U.S. ambassador to the Dominican Republic, and I hope that as I build my experience, having worked in Congress, having served as the legislative liaison for the 37 Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, that I am building those traits so that I can be an effective ambassador if I get chosen.
Mm, I love that. Well, let's hope someone's listening to this, right? And and they've got the power to make it happen.
Yes.
I love that. So the what you just mentioned about the Congress and the White House, how did that come about? Because that's separate, right, from the aviation path that you've been on. How did those roles emerge?
So it is separate from aviation, but it is a military. Again, while I was working at one of my assignments, I had a leader who told me apply for everything.
Mm,
Another Mason leader, Colonel Sam Driver. And the congressional is actually the Army Congressional Fellowship Program. And this is a program where it's very competitive, but you get selected. I was lucky enough to be selected in 2016. And part of the program is you get a master's in uh, political studies from the George Washington University. And you also get to serve in Congress, whether in the Senate or the House, for a year. And I happened to serve for a chair of the Appropriations Committee in the House. And then additionally, I was lucky enough that we have 5 Army senior leaders. Those are the top 5. You have the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Vice Chief of Staff, I can't remember one of them, and then the Sergeant Major of the Army. So I actually was asked to interview. At the time, it was the Chief of Staff of the Army, General McConville. I was asked to interview as one of his potential congressional liaison. I did not get the job with him, but I was interviewed by the Vice, General Joseph Martin, and I served as his legislative liaison for 2 years. And this encompassed me preparing him for testimonies on the Hill, setting up congressional meetings. And part of when I was as in Congress too, is part of taking Congress, either the staff or the senators and the representatives on CODELs, on congressional delegations. And I've had the chance to go overseas, locally, etc.
mm. Oh, wow, it honestly sounds like you've had and you're having such a full-on fulfilling career, which is
Yes.
great, right? Which is what we all want, essentially, isn't it? One of the things that one of the ways that you describe your strengths, or one of the strengths that you say that you have, is that you focus on finding commonalities rather than differences when you're working with people. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean by this and what it looks like in practice?
To me, what that means, and you just said, and you gave me goosebumps, even though those are my words, right? Find
Mhm.
commonalities, not differences. By that, I mean, we all have a story, right? Some people's story may be more uh, advanced than others, but I remember one of my group, and we actually had during the COVID, trying to give people hope. We had a meeting together with all the team, and this was when we worked for the Vice. And one of the gentlemen that worked for us, he happened to be homeless at one time. One other person, as an immigrant, she lived like 8 people live in one bedroom apartment. Myself, my story, we had another one that had dealt with gang related. So my point is, we all have a story, and we all need to learn to listen to each other and find commonalities and find compassion. Because at the end of the day, guess what? We all eat food. I'm sure everybody loves food, right? We all love some type of entertainment, whether it's music, sports, the theater. So we always have something in common. For us, obviously, in the military, we all wear the uniform, we all look the same. But when you get to the lower level and you get to know your people, we all have so much more in common. And when you start being open to understanding other nationalities, other cultures, you can act, or other just other beliefs, whatever that may be, when you sit down, you don't have to agree on everything, but you respect each other enough to understand where that person's coming from.
Hmm. That is an important principle, isn't it? And getting on with people, just understanding differences and trying to relate as much as possible. You know, so it's so for you, you've a lot of your life has been under this military umbrella, you know, and do you not worry? I wouldn't say worry is not the word, but do you feel like when it's time to leave that military umbrella, do you have any, or maybe you do you have any worries, or do you feel like, how am I going to cope as a civilian, you know, that type of thing?
Actually, I don't. Obviously, I love the military because otherwise I wouldn't be in 35 years. I know I could go get a job that pays me a lot more, but I have a sense of pride for the military. But I think one thing that has set me apart, I've always, and I say this to my soldiers, right, my team, I always tell them, when I leave the military, I want quality of life, which means take care of your body, right? Make sure you stretch, you exercise. If you're in pain, go see the doctor because a lot of times we're very strong-minded and we don't want to see the doctor. But then when you get older, so that's one. Secondly, because of my diverse career, I work for corporate. I've always tried to maintain both, I guess, a connection with the civilian world. So when I do leave the military, that will be another asset that I bring to wherever I go, understanding the military culture. But I think I'm ready to go back and be a civilian, just a regular citizen when I need to. I will miss it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think afraid is the word, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. So what you have, how do you balance, like, so all the achievements that you've had and in your career, and when even speaking to you, all the times we've spoken, you're very, it's almost like it's just a matter of fact. It's not a big deal, you know, to you. How do you stay so grounded?
My parents, I always say, no matter how successful you are, don't forget your roots. I still,
Mm,
like I said, when we started, my parents made that decision to leave the family behind, not knowing what the future had in store. So it is my responsibility not only to respect my parents, respect what they did by staying humble, and also by reminding people that you can succeed, but you can still be humble. And you know what? And you can lend a hand no matter where you are and find the time. 'Cause that's a lot of people don't think. Find the time to help someone when they're in need.
mm. And how did your parents actively keep you and your sisters connected to your roots? Because sometimes with immigrant families, you come over to the new country and you just adopt the identity of where you are and lose your own. How did you manage to still stay so rooted in your roots today?
So I think twofold. The town that they decided to move in, which I still say, why would you move from a sunny, beautiful Dominican Republic to cold winter, beautiful Boston? It's still beautiful though.
Mhm.
So that was a getting used to. But there's a large, not just Latino community in the area, but Caribbean. And I think one of the ways that we at the house stay close to our roots is we always practice the language. We still, just yesterday, I cook a Dominican dish. I still love cooking Dominican dish, even though, like you said, I'm American and I'm so proud of the opportunities that have been given to me in this awesome country. But you'll see me, I will cook a traditional American meal just like I'll cook a traditional Dominican. So I try to balance both because that's my root. One, I love the music and the food of the Dominican Republic, but I also love the food and everything else that I can get from the US and all the cultures that we have within the US.
What's your go-to dish to cook?
Ooh, so I actually love, it's called asopao, which is
Mm,
a rice, it's almost like jambalaya. So it's a rice soup
mm,
with shrimp, and you serve it with tostones, which is green plantains. That's my Dominican dish. Now, when I have people around, my American Bostonian dish, being from Boston, is my lobster BLT sandwich. It's amazing.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
Both of them sound very tasty. I love that. So when you think of, just as we round up, I want to have a few quick fire questions for you, but just the last one to think of. So you have done a lot in your career, and you've done a lot that's impacted the lives of other people. So when you think about legacy, what do you hope to be most remembered by?
I hope that when people look at me, they can say, she achieved the impossible, not only because of her drive, but because of the people that mentor her. And by that, I mean, look at me, a 9-year-old who moved to the US, didn't speak English, didn't understand the culture, certainly didn't have the money to pay for college, but I found the resources to pay, even though, let's just say I was working one weekend, I would work 48 hours on the weekend, double shifts to pay for college. So I hope that my legacy is that if there's a will, there's a way, and it's okay to take a step back, because I did leave college for a year. I had to reset and rethink my future, but it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to reassess. What is not okay is to allow fear to hold you back.
Love that. Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Okay, I want to end with some quick fire questions
Okay.
that you're not allowed to think about for too long.
Okay.
So first one, what's one word to describe you as a leader?
Compassionate.
Okay, I like. A book or a quote that's inspired you. You shared a quote by Mother Teresa earlier, so give me a book that you absolutely love.
Oh my God. I'm actually, well, not a book, but I'm actually listening to a podcast by Carl Walters, and it's called
Mhm.
Intentional Leadership. And every time I listen to a different one, he has military personnel, he has generals, he has civilian. And one of them, and it was by General McChrystal, that he said, they asked him, what would you have done different as a leader? He said, I would have spoken the truth, or I would have more courage to speak the truth at the time. And that, and by that I mean having the courage to tell your leadership, hey, sir, ma'am, I don't agree with you, but this is the reason why. I know that
Mm.
was a long answer, but that
That was
definitely
not the
started.
one word. No,
Yes,
but I love that. I love that. Courage to speak the truth is
yes,
is so essential.
yes.
Okay. What's a daily habit that helps you to stay focused?
Walking the dogs, coming home to them and receiving that unconditional love,
Mhm.
and listening to some good meditation music.
How many dogs do you have? Because I know you have rescue dogs, right?
Yes, so I have two dogs. They're
Mhm.
both Shih Tzus. Bella,
Mhm.
I've had her since she was 6 weeks. She's not a rescue. She's 13 now. And
Mhm.
Max, he's the rescue. And I think by the way he walks around here, he's pretty grateful to be in a good home.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Okay. What's one visibility tip that you would want to share with other female leaders in or outside of the military?
I would say don't be afraid to be visible. Because I will tell you, when I first started being visible, I was shy from posting stuff on Facebook, from posting stuff on LinkedIn, on Instagram when I was being recognized, because I thought I was being, I don't know, maybe self absorbent. So it took me a while to finally be comfortable with it's okay, Mara. So you can share that on a social media that you will recognize for that. So don't be afraid to be visible.
Just to, I'm gonna jump on that, but what do you think was the thing that stopped you from, that voice that's saying don't do it? Is it like fear of what other people think of you, or is it, what was holding you back?
It was afraid what people were thinking of me, and also afraid that people thought I was too self-centered.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I hear that a whole lot from women. Yeah, we seem to struggle with that more, but I'm glad you overcame that. Else, people won't hear about all the great stuff that you're doing. And then on that, the very final question is, what is next for you on your visibility journey? I know we're working on the LinkedIn, and I know that you've recently, was it something you did recently actually? The Institute, was that a recent the Smithsonian Institute that you were recognized as part of in a museum? That's
Yes.
something that's coming up, right?
So yes, that is coming up. Recently, I was asked by the Latino Smithsonian Museum to donate some of my military uniforms, letters from when I was deployed, my fly helmet. So I've donated all that so that they can have a display at the Latino Museum. And
Mm.
especially now, as you know, we're in a government shutdown here, so I don't know when the museums will reopen, but I am looking forward to seeing that display in hopes that it will give people hope that they too can achieve the impossible. And then next week on the 13th, I'm going to the Joseph A. Unani Latino Institute at Seton Hall to speak to an audience of Latino professionals who have been recognized for their achievement in their respective careers.
That's fantastic. That absolutely, absolutely inspiring. So that's a great, great place to end it there. And we can definitely, for those who are in the area, they can go and check you out at some of these events live. And I know you're open for people to connect with you via LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Final word for somebody listening it has been inspired by you, by this conversation, and they're thinking, what's the first thing that I can do to get myself started on the journey towards wherever it is that they want to go? What's the final piece of advice you'd give them?
Don't let the fear hold you back, and reach out to those mentors and those friends that you respect and admire so that they can be your champions when you're down on the ground.
Love it. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Marisol, for your time. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here.